Hello, my dear friends. Today, I will tell you the story of a man who changed the world of imagination. He built a world of smiles, color, and hope. He showed children and adults that dreams can come true. His name was Walt Disney. He was not born rich. He was not always successful. He failed many times, lost everything, and started again, but he never stopped dreaming. Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse, Snow White, Cinderella, and Disneyland. He turned ideas into pictures, pictures into movies, and movies into joy. This story is about his journey, from a small boy with a pencil to a man who built a world of fantasy. It is a story about courage, hard work, and imagination. Now let's begin the story of Walt Disney. From failure to fantasy. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Loved to Draw. Walt Disney was born on December 5, 1901, in Chicago, USA. His full name was Walter Elias Disney. He was the fourth of 5 children. His father, Elias Disney, was a strict and serious man. He worked very hard and wanted his children to do the same. His mother, Flora Disney, was gentle, patient, and kind. When Walt was 4 years old, the family moved to a small farm in Marceline, Missouri. The farm had fields, trees, cows, pigs, and horses. Life there was not easy, but it was full of simple beauty. Walt liked to watch the animals. He saw how they moved, how they ate, how they looked at him with soft eyes. He began to draw them on pieces of paper. When he had no paper, he used chalk on the wooden barn walls. His mother smiled when she saw his drawings. She gave him real paper and colored pencils. His father did not understand art. He said, "Drawing will not buy bread." But Walt's heart was happy whenever he drew. One day, a neighbor saw his sketch of a horse and paid him a few coins. Walt felt proud. He thought, "Maybe I can earn my life through drawing." Every night, after finishing his chores, he sat near the lamp and drew. Sometimes he copied pictures from newspapers. Sometimes he drew from his imagination, funny faces, animals, and moving trains. He did not know it then, but this small farm would later become the model for Main Street, USA, the heart of Disneyland. Chapter 2. Hard Work in Kansas City. In 1911, the Disney family left the farm and moved to Kansas City. There, life was harder. Elias Disney bought a newspaper route. Walt and his brother Roy had to help. Every morning, before sunrise, they delivered papers from door to door. They woke up at 3 a.m., carried heavy bundles, and walked for miles in cold weather. After delivering papers, Walt went to school. He was often tired and sleepy. Sometimes he fell asleep in class, but even then, his imagination was awake. He liked to doodle on his books, drawing faces, houses, and funny animals. Teachers scolded him, but his classmates loved his drawings. When school ended, he helped his father again with the evening route. At night, when others slept, Walt read storybooks and watched trains passing near the house. The sound of trains excited him. He imagined traveling far away to new worlds. He also joined art classes at the Kansas City Art Institute on weekends. There, he learned about shapes, colors, and shadows. He practiced drawing people in motion. Money was always short. Sometimes the family could not afford proper clothes or toys. But Walt learned an important lesson: to work hard, to save money, and to be patient. He also learned to find joy in small things: a good drawing, a kind word, or a funny idea. The boy who delivered newspapers at dawn was already dreaming of something big. Chapter 3. A Young Artist and His First Failures. When Walt finished high school, World War I was happening. He wanted to join the army, but he was only 16. So he changed the date on his birth certificate and joined the Red Cross instead. He went to France as an ambulance driver. There, he saw the sadness of war: destroyed houses, hurt soldiers, tired faces. To lift people's hearts, he painted cheerful cartoons on his ambulance. He decorated it with birds, smiling suns, and comic figures. Even in dark times, Walt created light. After the war, he returned to the United States full of hope. He told his father, "I want to be an artist." His father frowned. "Art is no real job," he said. But Walt had already made his choice. He moved back to Kansas City and found a small job in an advertising company. There, he learned to make short cartoon ads for local businesses. He watched how drawings were filmed one frame at a time to make them move. He was fascinated. At night, he stayed in the office to experiment with a borrowed camera. He drew a ball, moved it slightly, photographed it, and repeated. When he played the pictures fast, the ball seemed to bounce. It was magic, the magic of animation. Soon he decided to start his own small studio. He called it Laugh-O-Gram Films. He invited a few young artists who also dreamed big. They created short cartoons based on fairy tales like Cinderella, Puss in Boots, and Red Riding Hood. The films were clever, funny, and new. People liked them, but business was bad. The studio made little money. Walt could not pay rent. He slept in his office and sometimes ate one simple meal a day. His clothes were old, but his spirit was strong. Finally, in 1923, Laugh-O-Gram Films went bankrupt. Walt was only 21. He had no money, no company, and no clear plan. But he said quietly, "I will start again." Failure is only a test. He bought a one-way train ticket to California. Chapter 4: A Train to Hollywood. Walt Disney arrived in Hollywood in the summer of 1923 with only $40 and a suitcase full of drawings. At that time, Hollywood was becoming the center of the movie world. He stayed with his brother Roy Disney, who had just recovered from illness. Roy was calm, wise, and supportive. Walt was full of energy and imagination. Together, they made a perfect team. They opened a tiny office in a rented garage. They borrowed a camera and some film. That small place became the beginning of Disney Brothers Studio. Their first project was a series of short films mixing real actors and animation. The series was called Alice Comedies. People liked the idea of a little girl walking inside a cartoon world. With this success, Walt hired more artists and built a better studio. Soon, he created a new cartoon hero, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The Oswald cartoons became popular, and Walt felt he was finally safe. But one day, he received a painful surprise. When he went to New York to discuss his contract, the film distributor told him that the company owned Oswald, not Walt. Most of his animators had also left to work for that company. In one moment, Walt lost his character, his team, and his income. He sat alone in the train on the way back to California. Many people would have given up, but Walt began to draw in his notebook. He sketched a small, friendly mouse with big ears and a smiling face. He whispered to himself, "This little fellow will never leave me." That little mouse would soon make history. Chapter 5: The Birth of Mickey Mouse. Back in California, Walt told his brother Roy, "I have a new idea, a small mouse." A brave little friend, Roy looked at him and smiled. "Then let's bring him to life." Walt and a few loyal artists worked day and night. They made 3 short films with the mouse. The first two did not sell. The third one changed everything. It was called Steamboat Willie. This cartoon had something new: sound. Mickey whistled, laughed, and moved in time with music. Walt himself gave Mickey's cheerful voice. When the film was shown in a New York theater in 1928, people were amazed. They had never seen drawings sing and talk before. Children clapped. Adults laughed like children again. Mickey Mouse became an instant star. He was small but brave, funny but kind. He represented hope during hard times. America was in the Great Depression, and people had little money, but they could spend a few cents to smile with Mickey. Soon, Walt's studio was busy every day. He created new friends for Mickey: Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, and Pluto. Each had its own funny voice and warm heart. Walt said, "Mickey was born of despair, but he taught me that happiness can grow from sadness." His dream was alive again, but he wanted to dream bigger. Chapter 6: Snow White and the Dream That Worked. After years of short cartoons, Walt began to dream of a long, beautiful story, a full movie made only from drawings. He chose the fairy tale Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. When he told people about it, they laughed. They called it Disney's folly. They said, "No one will watch a cartoon for an hour." But Walt believed in the story. He believed in the characters, the songs, and the emotions. He sold his house, borrowed money, and put everything he owned into the project. Hundreds of artists worked for 3 years. They painted over 1 million pictures by hand. Sometimes Walt stayed in the studio all night, watching his team, correcting details, encouraging everyone. He said, "We are not just making drawings. We are making dreams move." In December 1937, the movie finally came out. When the lights went down, audiences forgot they were watching animation. They cried when Snow White died and smiled when she woke up. At the end, people stood and clapped. Walt wiped tears from his eyes. Snow White became a huge success. It earned millions and won awards. It proved that animation could tell deep, emotional stories. Now, Walt's studio grew into a real kingdom of art. He followed Snow White with Pinocchio, Bambi, Fantasia, and Dumbo. Each movie brought new color, sound, and heart. But soon, another storm arrived: World War II. Chapter 7: War, Struggles, and a New Dream. When war began, many of Walt's best animators joined the army. The studio stopped making fairy tales and began producing training films for soldiers. Money problems returned. The company lost markets in Europe. Some workers were unhappy and went on strike. For the first time, Walt felt tired and lonely. Yet he refused to give up. He said, "The world needs laughter more than ever." After the war, he searched for a new idea. He traveled with his family to fairs and amusement parks. Most were dirty, noisy, and not safe. Parents sat on benches while children played alone. Walt thought, why not build a place where families can have fun together? A place that is clean, friendly, and full of imagination. Everyone told him it was impossible, but impossible was a word he never believed. He drew sketches, castles, trains, and gardens. He talked to architects, engineers, and artists. He dreamed of a city of joy. To collect money, he even started a new TV show, the Disneyland show, to share his vision. He invested every dollar he had. On July 17th, 1955, Disneyland finally opened in Anaheim, California. The first day was difficult. It was very hot. The pavement melted, and some rides stopped working. But the visitors still smiled. Children ran toward the castle, and parents held their hands. News spread fast. Disneyland was magical. People came from all over America. Walt walked through the park quietly. He watched families laugh, and sometimes tears filled his eyes. He said, "Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination." The dreamer who once drew animals on barn walls had built a real kingdom of happiness. Chapter 8: The Final Years and the Forever Legacy. Even after Disneyland became a success, Walt did not stop dreaming. He began planning an even larger project in Florida, a whole world of imagination. He wanted it to include another park and a real city, a city of the future. He called it EPCOT, Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. It would be a place where new technology and creativity lived together. At the same time, his studio produced new movies: Cinderella, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, and Mary Poppins. Walt still went to his office every morning. He met artists, writers, and engineers. He asked questions, gave advice, and shared jokes. He often said, "Keep moving forward. Open new doors, do new things. Curiosity keeps us young," but his health was getting weaker. Years of smoking had damaged his lungs. In 1966, doctors discovered a serious illness. Even in the hospital, Walt kept working. He spread blueprints on his bed and talked to Roy about the Florida project. His eyes still shone when he spoke about new rides and happy families. On December 15, 1966, Walt Disney passed away peacefully at age 65. The news shocked the world. Children cried. Adults felt they had lost a friend. Newspapers called him the man who made the world smile. His brother Roy decided to finish Walt's dream. In 1971, Walt Disney World opened in Florida. At the opening ceremony, Roy said, "This is Walt's dream come true. Today, there are Disney parks in America, Europe, and Asia. Millions of people visit every year. Each laugh, each song, each sparkle of light carries the spirit of Walt Disney." Walt Disney's story is not only about cartoons. It is about courage. It is about never giving up. It is about believing when no one else does. He failed again and again, lost money, lost characters, lost health. But he always began again. He once said, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." From a poor boy on a farm to a man who built castles of joy, he proved that imagination has no limits. His life teaches us simple truths. Believe in your dream, even if people laugh. Work hard, even when you are tired. Learn from failure. It is your best teacher. Use imagination because it gives you power. Share happiness because the world needs it. When you watch a Disney movie or walk in a Disney park, remember the young man who once drew animals on a barn wall. Remember how he turned failure into fantasy.